Shalom, 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 shalom. My name is Rapha'Yah Renderos, and in this beginning of the year, Shana Tova, Shana Tova, Happy New Year for all of you that are keeping this Hebrew year. Today, it's a very, very happy day because we're starting a new beginning of Bereshyt, the Torah lessons and Torah teachings. And in this channel, we are glad to bring you a lot of insight from the Torah, from the instruction of our Creator. I'm one of the producers of the channel, the Torah Effects. Now, the purpose of this channel is to bring about the good news of Mashiach, the Torah, the living Torah, and that's what it's all about, to bring you more insights of what they've been giving us for so many years, so many lies. It's about time to bring the real truth of the matter on the Torah and the prophets. In this beginning of the year, we're going to start off with the Parashat or Torah portion. That's what it means. In this called Bereshyt. So let's start off. Parashat Bereshyt, which is the beginning of creation, the beginning of all things, brings about something very important. And I want to make sure that while we're bringing this in this very date, is I want you to understand this Shabbat that the Creator brings all these things for a reason. Let's dig into the Parashat Bereshyt. Look at what it says here in the very beginning of the book of Bereshyt or Genesis. Chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning created Yahweh Aleph Tau, the heavens and earth. Now you probably think, what do you mean Yahweh? Doesn't it say God or Elohim? You probably already understand that our mission in this channel is to bring about the real truth of the matter on the Torah and the prophets, and the real Mashiach, the real Messiah. And you've probably seen some of the videos that we have produced on the name of the Creator and the title, his title. And you probably already know that in the Torah, in the very beginning, does not say Elohim or God. It actually says Yahweh. Now, if you want to watch that video, please, whenever you can, you might do so. Now, look what it says here. In the very beginning, Yahweh created, and it's not translated in your Bibles or your Tanakh, but it's translated as Aleph Tau. What is Aleph Tau? Or who is Aleph Tau, as she said? Is the Mashiach, Yahushua, and then the heavens and earth. But look at what it says here. Let's go into the Hebrew. The Hebrew reads from right to left. In the beginning, Barach, Bereshyt Barach, Yahweh, Aleph Tau, Hashamayim, Wa'etz, Haaretz. In the beginning, Yahweh created Aleph Tau, the heavens, Aleph Tau, and the earth. Now, it's very, very important for us to understand that everything that is encoded into the scriptures is encoded, and let's pause for a minute, is encoded for a reason. The reason is that everything that the prophets, everything that it was written about the Mashiach. It was written about Yahushua. Now, let's go back over here because I want you to understand something very important. On these 7 words, let me just go back over here. There are 7 words over here. They are encoded 7 millenniums. Look what it says here in Psalms 90, verse 4. For 1,000 years in your eyes as a day. This is exactly what 2 Peter, 2 Kepha 3:8 says. Let not this one thing be hidden from you, beloved. The one day with Ayil Almighty is 1,000 years, in 1,000 years as one day. So here, let's pause for a minute. Here we can actually see that the Creator is encoded in the very beginning of the book of Bereshyt or Genesis, 7 words. And those 7 words are the 7 days of creation. And we're about to show you that those 7 days are encoded in every single millennium that have occurred unto today. Now, it's very important. Let's go back over here. And look at what it says here. The book of Isaiah or Isaiah 46, verse 9 and 10. Remember former things from forever, for I am Ayil Almighty, and no other Ayil Almighty exists, even none like me. Declaring the end from the Bereshyt. Bereshyt means beginning. And from the past those things that were not done, saying, my counsel shall rise, and I will do all my desire. In other words, you and I don't have a saying. You and I don't have anything to say about any other plans, what Yahweh has stipulated from the very, very beginning of creation. It is important for us to understand that everything that is written or everything that it has happened in history is already written. All we got to do is go back from the very beginning. And that's what we're going to do. So the Creator says that everything that has occurred, or it will happen because it was already here, declares the end from the beginning, Bereshyt. In the very verses from the prophets, is already telling us that our Creator is already telling us everything that has occurred from the very beginning of the book of Bereshyt or Genesis. Now let's go back over here. The plan of the redemption of Yahweh. From the 1 to 7 words are 7 millenniums that has occurred, and one is yet to occur, which is number 7. The first one is light. The second is water. The third is dry land. The fourth is light guides or guide lights. And the fifth one is seed and creatures. The sixth is man, when man was created. And 7 is Shabbat. Now let's get deep into what's encoded into the Torah. And let's go with the first day, the light, which is in Hebrew for or. Genesis chapter 1 verse 3. The Yahweh said, let the or light be, and there was or, which is light. It's very important for us to understand, beloved, that we can see pretty much that every day starts from sundown to sundown. But in the very beginning of creation, it starts with the date. Okay? The date. But let's go over here, guys. The light that was created in the very first day of creation. Remember that everything that our forefathers saw, it was already written in the prophets, beloved. But if you see right here, and let's go back over here. If Yahweh said that in the very first 3 verses, it says, Yahweh said, let the light be, and there was light. Why? Because Yahweh make a lot of things important, perfect. Now let's go back over here. Remember when Adam and Eve were created? Well, the first was Adam. He was created as a light being. Why? Because he's supposed to be the image of Yahweh. He's supposed to be the very reflection of Yahweh Sebaot, our Creator. So it is not much to say or exaggerate too much that Adam was made of a light being. Look at what it says here. 1 verse 26 of Genesis. And Yahweh said, let us make man in our own Salem. Salem means shadow or reflection. Now let me ask you guys, all of you, have you ever seen your own reflection when the sun is hitting, when you're outside, out the sun, and this sun is hitting you and you reflect a shadow? That's your reflection of your shadow. That's you. That's your reflection of your shadow. And also, it happens when we actually go into the landscapes. It reflects the heavens above. It was basically what Yahweh wanted to begin with. He wanted to make the heavens a reflection on earth. With whom? With Adam. He wanted to make everything that was on the heavens right down to earth. A perfect world. And that's why Adam was a light being. He was made of light. It was a reflection of Yahweh Sabaoth. Now, let's continue. Remember when Moshe or Moses, remember when Yahweh spoke to him and he told him exactly, he said, do as you have seen in the mountain Sinai. Do as I tell you. Follow everything that you've seen in Mountain Sinai. What was in Mountain Sinai, beloved? All the things that, remember when Yahweh contracted the heavens and earth, he contracted to the very core of everything. That's what the whole earth trembled. It is very important for us to understand that perhaps everything that Moshe saw was everything, the original, it's on heaven. So whatever he was making was basically a replica. It's not the original. A lot of people tend to think that the things that, for example, the tent of the meeting, the menorah, the burning scent, and all these things that Yahweh asked him to do so was the original one. No, it was not the original one. It was a replica because the original one is on heaven. Chapter 2, verse 17. He says very clear that but out of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you may not eat, for in the day that you should eat, you should surely die. It is very important for us to understand that perhaps this was not really something that the Creator intended to, but he told them very clearly not to eat of that fruit. And what happened, brothers and sisters? They die. Remember, very important, you might think, well, they didn't die in that moment. Yeah, but 1,000 years didn't pass until they all died. And remember, one day is 1,000 years. So it's very important, guys, to understand that all this was written. Everything, like I said, everything that the Creator said not to do, they actually did. But everything that he was intended from the very beginning, the heavens down here on earth, they told him that he wanted to make heavens here on earth. But remember that it will happen again when Mashiach returns. So, chapter 3, verse 21. Look what it says here. We were talking earlier. Let me pause here for a moment. We were talking earlier about the light being, right? Adam and Eve were made of, they were beings of light. Now, remember when they sinned? Let's go back over here. Look at what they sinned. 3 verse 21. And Yahweh Ayil Almighty made for Adam and his wife robes of the ore. Robes of ore. Ore means the skin, and clothed them. Now you have to understand, and let me pause here for a moment. The word ore is not just light, because it's written, it pronounced the same thing, but it's written different. Or, in this case, let's go back over here. It says ore as skins, but here is spells with a ayin, okay, resh, aleph. Now let's go back over here, guys, okay, and follow me what I'm saying. So if we understand what the Creator is telling us in this very moment, in the word for light, okay, in the word for light is aleph, resh, aleph, or, okay, in this case, skins is with ayin. Very important, guys, because one thing is different from the other. Remember when Moshe, remember when he went to the Mount Sinai, he came down and his face was glowing? That's the word for, his face was glowing. That's the word for or. The same thing as here. So in other words, what happened to when they sin. Look at what it says here. When they sin, they cover themselves. Verse 7, 37 of Bereshyt, Genesis, and the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed leaves out of the fig tree and made girdles for themselves. You see, that's two different accounts. Two different accounts from earlier. Okay? So, what do we see here, guys? We see that in the very beginning, when they sinned, they clothed themselves with fig trees. And later, Yahweh covered them with the skin. That's why we have to thank our Creator. We have to thank Adam and Eve that we have skin. The skin that you see, the leather, the skin, is basically because our fathers sinned. Because to begin with, it was made of light. Now, let's go back over here. Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, Bereshyt, and Yahweh called the light day, and he called the darkness night. And there was an evening, and there was a morning, day 1. Now, it's very important that we have to understand the first millennium. Remember that it was the day and the evening. Our fathers started off good with light, but they became dark with sin. Understand? It was beautiful and everything, but they sinned. We have to understand something important. The pattern here, okay, is what we see here. 950 years that Adam did not pass the 1,000 years. I'm talking about life. Now, let me also clear something very important. Remember that in the state of perfection, time does not, in reality, does not count. Okay? But when Adam sinned, the time, the clock started ticking. That's why chapter 5 says, this is the years of Adam, and it gives you the amount of years. Why? Because when he was cast out from the Garden of Eden, time started ticking. And that's why he reached 930 years. Very important, guys, because it did not pass that date, that millennium. Let's go back over here. So that light on that beginning became dark. Now, you have to understand, okay, after the fall of Adam, okay, we're talking about here, the fall of Adam, 0, the time started ticking. So we have to understand something very important, guys, okay? And half of one day is basically, half a millennium is 500 years. Remember the evening, and we're talking about from right, okay, to left, okay, always right to left. So from Adam, the evening, okay, became light, okay. So very important, guys, because here, okay, here in the very half of the millennium, who came about? It was Hanok. Hanok, or Enoch, was the one who started restoring the light. And he was born, okay, in 622 after the fall of Adam. He lived 365 years, making the whole year, before the whole year closed, the whole millennium closed, was 987. Right before that, he restored the light. He restored the light. He's the one who came about and restored the light because of Adam. Chapter 5, verse 22, and Hanok, or Enoch, Wayichalech. Wayichalech means walked, or he had a way of life. What was the way of life? The righteousness. Righteousness towards whom? Yahweh. He walked with Yahweh. Okay? Look at what the book of Jude, or Yehudah in the book New Testament, what they call it New Testament today, and 1:14. And the seventh from Adam, Hanoch, also prophesied about to these men, saying, Behold, the Master come with 10,000 of Kedoshim, set apart ones. Not only he restored the light in that millennium, but also he was a prophet. He also prophesied about the Mashiach. It's very important for us to understand, guys, that our forefathers saw our Mashiach, prophesied about our Mashiach. Remember what I said earlier? All the things that were written and all the prophets in the Torah was written about whom? About the Mashiach. So this is very important verses that we are seeing. Hebrews 1:11. By emunah, or firmness, Hanoch was translated so as not to see death, and was not found because Yahweh translated him. And before his translation, he has obtained witness to have been pleasing to Yahweh. In other words, he did not follow the ways of man at that particular time. He was restoring the light. He was restoring everything that was to begin with in the very beginning. He was the one restoring everything. Now let's jump into day 2. Day 2, 1 verse 6. Yahweh said, Let an expanse to be in the midst of the water, and let it be divided between the waters and the waters. Here in this day 2 is where Yahweh separated the waters from the waters. Okay? And it's very important that in day 2, something strange happened. And we all know what happened here. It was the flood. It was the flood that Yahweh had brought to, because the iniquity after 1,000 years became an iniquity. Okay, after the 1,000 years, Noah lived 950 years. But we have to understand, guys, okay, that right about 1656, okay, let me go back over here, 1308 was Noah, okay? So in other words, Noah lived that particular time, and he was the one who restored what was already as an iniquity, that get to the point where Yahweh said, this cannot continue. Why? Because, let me pause here for a moment. That's where the Nephilims came, the Watchers. Okay? In the very beginning, we have to understand that the right pre-Diluvian events, Nephilims and giants, what they call it giants today, were about 450 feet tall. That was the Nephilims. That was the biggest giants ever. Right after the flood, became lesser as height, about 30 to 40 feet tall. But the biggest that was in the time of the flood, before the flood. So that's one of the reasons why. One of the reasons, it was also because they were eating blood, the Nephilims, because there was a mixture of all kinds of animals. That's why you probably wonder, where did the dinosaurs came about? It came about this era right here, where the Nephilims did a mixture of everything. When it came to animals, reptiles, insects, everything that you can think about, it was a mixture of everything. And that's why Yahweh, when it comes to Noah, if you flip Noah backwards, is Chen. Chen means what they call it today, favor, or grace, what they call it grace out there. Okay, so he found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. He was perfect in his generations. Generations, that means it comes from the genes. He was not mixed with anything. So that's one of the reasons why Yahweh preserved him in his generation, in his kids. And that's why he was the last of the Mohicans, in other words. Very important for us to understand all these concepts. chapter 7, verse 11, in 600 years of Noah's life, in this day the fountains of the great deep were risen, and the windows of the heavens were open. This is what everything happened. That's why all the fables and all the histories, all the stuff that you hear about the Atlantis and all these places around, we might bring it actually on the Parashat Noah about those things. But right now, all I can tell you, it's the fountains of the deep were basically broken. And not only that, not only were broken from the deep, okay, from the right here from the subterranean waters, they were completely, erupted. But not only from the earth, but also from the heavens. So, do you imagine coming water from the underneath and also from above? You know, and that was 40 days of continuous flooding. This was beyond belief. I just want to make a remark too. If you guys probably think about heaven, it's not just the clouds. Yahweh say he brought waters from the heavens. If you really think about what's going on outside the earth, on the cosmos, on other planets, even scientists can tell you that there are water on Mars, and there are frozen, of course. There are water in the rings of Saturn and so forth. So there's a lot of water out there. Where do you think Yahweh brought it from? The flood, from above and below. So all these things we have to understand a deeper concept of what they've been telling us for a long time. 1 verse 8, and Yahweh called the spans heavens, and there was an evening and there was a morning, day 2. Now, very important, guys. Very important. And let me jump into chapter 3. Day 3, the dry land. The dry land, it says here, chapter 1, verse 9, Yahweh said, let the waters under the heavens be collected in one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Yahweh called the dry land earth, and he called the collections of water seas, and Yahweh saw that it was good. Now, here is very important that every day Yahweh said that everything was good, right? Everything that was good. But it's very sadly that in this day, chapter 2, day 2, the waters, the Torah does not say that that day was good. Why? Why do you think that day was not good? If you read it, the whole chapter 1, in day 2 of creation was not good. Why? Because Yahweh completely eradicated all the Nephilims, all the giants on that millennium. And it was very important for Yahweh that's what he says it was not good. Okay? We can get into that a little bit deeper, but let's continue. So, dry land on 3. Who does it belong to? Yahweh. Why? Why? Why do you think? Let's continue. 1 verse 11. Yahweh said, let the earth sprout tender sprouts, and the earth seeding seed, the fruit trees producing according to its kind, whichever seed it is on earth, and it was so. Very important, guys, because the dry land brings what? Vegetation, fruits. And what is fruits? Is basically food. Look at what it says, Psalms 106 verse 9. And he rebuked the red sea, and he dried up, and he made them go through the depths as through the wilderness. You see that? Yahweh made the ocean dry. Why? Because they needed to be so. They needed to go through our forefathers from that, the Yam Suf, this seed of reeds. That's what the real meaning of it. Now let's go. In the third day, We're always going to bring something on the third. Every time in the third day, he always bring us to the third, a third of something. Chapter 19, verse 1. In the third month, on the going out of the sons of Israel in the land of Egypt, on this day they came about in the wilderness of Sinai. You see that? In the third month. Now in the same chapter, verse 1, and be ready for the third day. On the third day, what? Yahweh will go down the eyes of all people on the Mount Sinai. So what happens here, guys? The third word, Yahweh, is Yahweh coming down to earth in Mount Sinai to give the 10 pronunciations. 10 pronunciations was, he was about to give the Torah, but that did not happen. He gave it on Yom HaKippurim, in the Day of the Atonement. Why? Because our forefathers sinned. He only gave the 10 words. So here we can see a pattern that we're following. The third day, okay? The third word, see that? Yahweh is actually bringing this about. Chapter 20, verse 1 of Exodus, and Yahweh Almighty spoke all these words, saying, do you see that? Our Creator spoke about these very precise words, and it was, you can actually read it for yourself, all these 10 words, the 10 pronunciations of Yahweh Sabaoth, himself revealing to our forefathers in Mount Sinai. John chapter 6, verse 51, I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Now, remember what we were talking earlier? Let's pause here for a moment. Remember before we were talking earlier what the vegetation, the fruits and the trees bring forth food. You see that? So not only the material food, but also they see that's Mount Sinai. He bring about the manna, the spiritual fruits, bread. Now we know who's the bread, the manna. That was Mashiach. He said it. I am the bread. I am the manna. You can read the whole chapter if you want, whenever you can. So we can see pretty much a pattern. The dry land is the wilderness. The vegetation is the food, which is the manna. And also it means also the Torah, the spiritual food. So all this, we can see this concept encoded in the very first chapter of Bereshyt. In the first 7 words, we can see all this. Now let's jump into day 4, or number 4 word, the light to guide. 1:14, and Yahweh said, let the lights in the spans of the heavens to divide them from the day and night, and let them be for a sign and for a moedim, days and seasons, for days and years. You see the 4 things here. 4 things that Yahweh is creating. Signs, moedims or seasons, days and years. In day 4. Do you see that? Very important, guys. All this is very, very intriguing to find out what's encoded on the scriptures, encoded on the Torah about these nuances that we can actually see. So, light guide. Now, what happened in the 4th millennium? You see where it says Aleph Tau here? Aleph Tau, which is the Mashiach. In the 4th millennium, who came about in the 4th millennium? Our Mashiach. Chapter 1, verse 16. And Yahweh made 2 great lights. The great light to rule the day, and the small light, the stars, to rule the night. Let me pause here for a moment. Contrary to popular belief, Messianic Christian belief, and even our Jewish brothers, it's not what it seems. If you see the Torah, in the scriptures, in the Hebrew, does not say 3 things. Let's go back over here. It does not say the great light is the first one, the small light is the second, and the third is the star. It does not say. It only says two things here. Two great lights. We know the great light is the sun. And the small light is what? The stars, guys, the stars. In the Hebrew, does not say, the translator added and the stars. Does not say that in the Hebrew. Actually, if you look it up, in the Hebrew it says wa'ot. Wa'ot means the sign. That's what it means, the sign. Look it up. I'm not making it up. You can look it up, the meaning of it on that wa'it. Wa'it means ot. Ot, okay? Ot means a sign. The same as verse 14. Please write it down. Don't take my word for it. Write it down. Go there and look it up. Verse 14, it says, where it says sign, and also for signs and moedims and days and years, where it says signs or marks, that's the word for ot. The same as here, okay? A small light, it said, I didn't translate it there, but if I were to translate it, in the Hebrew it says, it, ot, okay? Which is the sign of the stars to rule the night. Now, there are two, the great, which is the sun, and the stars. Now, let's look over here. 1:19, there was an evening and there was a morning, day 4. Very important, guys, because if you were to see this in the year 4000, who came about in the year 4000? It came about Yahushua in the year 4000 according to the Torah. According to the Torah, Yahushua came exactly in the year 4000. Who else came about in the year 4000? It was also Yohanan. Who was the first great light? Mashiach. Who was the lesser light? Yohanan. Why? Because one gave testimony of the other. Look at what it says here. Okay, let's go John 1:4. In him was light, and the life was the light of men. You see that? Look at what it says, verse 6. And there was a man sent from Yahweh. His name was Yohanan. He came for a witness, that he might witness concerning the light, that all might believe through him. Concerning the light. Very important, guys, to understand this concept. Look at what it says here. He was not the light. He didn't say the light. He said he was not the light, but he might witness concerning the light. He was a true light. He enlightened every man coming into the world. Now, we have to understand something very important. Let me ask you a question. Isn't every one of us a light according to the Torah? We are. Even our Mashiach says, you are the light of the world. So much more Yohanan, that he was bearing witness about the Mashiach Yahushua. In other words, he was also a light. But here, concerning the light, he says very clear, he was not that light. Which light? The light, the Mashiach. So in other words, there are two lights over here. 1 verse 16. He made two great lights, the Aleph Tau, to rule the day, and look at the small light, the stars that rule the night. In Hebrew, that's what is actually translated. He made two great lights. The great light, what was it? The Aleph Tau. Please look it up in the Hebrew. I'm not making it up. I'm not adding. I'm not taking. That's what is translated. The Aleph Tau. Now, continue. Look at what it says here in Revelation 1:8. I am the Aleph and the Tau. That's what the Mashiach says. So in other words, that great light is who? The Mashiach. Look at what it says here concerning the Mashiach. Look at Malachi, chapter 4, verse 2. But to you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise up, and healing will be in his wings. what was the wings? The tassels, the talit. But the important things about what it says, the Son of Righteousness. Now, let me clear something. Sun, which is Shemesh, that's in Hebrew, Shemesh. With the vowels, that's Shemesh. Without the vowels is Shamar. Okay? I'm sorry, Shamash. Shamash means servant. So if we were to translate this verse without the vowels, it says, and the servants, the Shamash of righteousness shall rise up. Why? Because we can use it as either or, it doesn't matter. The Mashiach is the light, okay? And also he's the servant, because we can see all over the scriptures concerning the servant, which is the Mashiach Yahushua, doing the will of Yahweh. Now here, everybody knows that in Hanukkah, this one right here on top is called the Shamash. And then you start lighting every single, light every day. But here in the middle is called the Shamash. And who's the Shamash? Is that number 4, right? From right to left is number 4. Number 4, which is the Shamash. It's not a coincidence, guys. It's not a coincidence. Let's jump into day 5. Word number 5. Abundant water in sky. 1:21 of Genesis, and Yahweh created great sea creatures and every living creatures that moved, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Yahweh saw it that it was good. Now here we can see that in day 5 he made the sea creatures, which is Shamayim. You see that? Shamayim. Which is Hashemayim, right? Which is sea creatures. Now, look what it says here. And there was the evening and there was the morning, the 5th day. Look at what it says here, because it's very important that if we're talking about the heavens, the expanse of heavens, and also the fish, and also the birds. Look at what it says here, 21 verse 10. Yahushua said to them, bring from the fish what you have caught now. Simon Kepha went up and dragged the net into the land full of big fish, 153. Do you know that 153 is encoded all the people that Mashiach changed their lives? 153. The woman that had 12 years of leaking nida, right? The blood. The paralyzed man, the deaf man. A lot of people that he healed, 153. Some other things too, we're not going to get into that, it's too long. So let's jump into this. Acts 2 verse 41. And some of them ready to receive his words and believe and were immersed. And there was added in that day about 3,000 souls. Abundant. You see that? Abundance. All this happened because, and this is, pause here for a moment. All this happened because in the 5th millennium, when Mashiach already, the 4th millennium already has passed, the 5th millennium came about. What happened? The abundance of the good news of Mashiach were about all the world. That's why no wonder why everybody knows about the Jesus, but which is the real Mashiach. We have to make them understand. We have to make them known around the world. But everybody knows about the Mashiach around the world. Because the 5th millennium was the abundance of the good news. Now let's switch into the 6th day. Animals and man. 124, and Yahweh said, let the earth bring the 4th soul of life according to the kind of cattle, creepers, and beasts of all of the earth according to his kind, and it was so. What happened on the 6th day? It was man was created and also beasts. Now, 1 verse 26, and Yahweh said, let us make men in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, the birds, the cattle, the earth, the creepers, creeping on the earth. Why? Because man became the ruler of, of the earth, in other words. Yahweh put it subject to the man indeed. But what happened on the 6th millennium? The 6th millennium, that's where a lot of things start happening. I don't know if you remember in the 6th millennium, a lot of things about the Dark Ages and the Renaissance, and remember when the book of Daniel, real quick, let's read it. 7:7, and after I was looking at the night vision, behold, the fourth beast, frightened, terrifying, exceeding strong. We always seen men and nations as a beast. Okay? Always refer as a beast. Chapter 13, verse 2, and I saw a beast that I saw like a leopard, and his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth was a lion's mouth, and the dragon gave his power to it, and his throne and great authority. If you notice here, always man refers as a beast, because they're always acting like a beast. But Yahweh made man to his own image, not like a beast. We have to understand that in the 6th millennium that we're living right now, Yahweh wants to make the man acting like a beast a real man, the man of Yahweh. And that's why no wonder why Yahweh wants to make the separation between man and beast. Look at what it says here, chapter 16, verse 2 of Revelation. The first went away and poured out his bowl onto the earth, and it came to be a bad, malignant sore into the man, the ones having the mark of the beast, and the ones worshiping the image. You see that? But what Yahweh wants from you and I is a new man. Chapter 4, verse 24, and put a new man who's created by Yahweh in Tzedakah. Tzedakah means righteousness. And in true Kedushah, which is to be set apart. You see that? That's what's going on in this millennium, this closing millennium, for us to become a new man. And also not to have the mark of the beast, but also have the seal of Yahweh. Chapter 9, verse 4 of Revelation. And it was said to them that they should not harm the grass of the earth, nor every green thing, nor every tree, except only men who do not have the seal of Yahweh on their foreheads. Do you see that? In other words, Yahweh wants us to have his seal, his mark. Let me ask you something. What is one of the mark of Yahweh for us? One of the signs of Yahweh. Shabbat. Shabbat is one of the signs of Yahweh towards his people. Yahweh says this is a seal between Yahweh and mankind, the Shabbat. That's one of the signs of Yahweh. Now, also, what Yahweh wants is also to bring about the wedding of the Lamb. Look at what it says here, Revelation 21, verse 9. And I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. Kadosh Yerushalayim, coming down from out of heaven from Yahweh. So in other words, what Yahweh wants us is to be united with the Mashiach who is coming. And for that to happen, we have to bring about something. Let me show you real quick. The 4th millennium came, okay? And this is what Yahweh wants from us. The 4th millennium needs to happen something to the 3rd day, okay? Let me bring this. This is the first coming of Mashiach. You see this? This is the first event of Mashiach when he came about the year 4000. But this is the second event in the year at the end of the 6th millennium, right about here in the beginning of the 7th millennium. When the 6,000 year closes, that will be the beginning of the 3rd day. Where did it say all this? Let me just show you. Hosea chapter 6 verse 2, after 2 days he will bring us to life. And in the third day he will raise us up and we shall live before him. After 2 days, see that? After 2 days, that's what he's doing right here. After 2 days, 1, 2, and this is on the third day, this is going to raise us up. When he comes in the very beginning of the 7th millennium, he's going to raise us up right here. After 2 days, okay, 1 and 2, right here, for the past 2,000 years, Mashiach is bringing life to a lot of people, but to raise us up, it will happen when he comes back again. When he returns us back, he's going to raise us in his second advent. Now let's close with the Shabbat, day 7. In the great, chapter 2, verse 1, and the heavens and earth were finished in all their host. In the 7th day, Yahweh completed his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day. For all his work which he had made, right? So in other words, the Shabbat is the one that closes everything, the whole deal, the Shabbat. This is the Shabbat that it was written from long ago that was supposed to happen. Now let me bring this, in this Shabbat also refers as Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah, everybody who keeps the Sukkot feast, we know that the 7th day or the 7th day of Sukkot is called the last day, which is 7th day, is called Hoshana Rabbah, which means is bring our salvation. Bringing our salvation is on the 7th day, and remember, Mashiach kept that day. Okay, so our Mashiach kept that day. Look at what it says, chapter 7, verse 37. Now on the great day, which is the last of the feast, which is Hoshana Rabbah, which is the 7th day, Yeshua standing, he cried out, he said, if a man thirst, let him come to me and drink. Why? Because our Mashiach wants us to come to him. In order for us to come to Yahweh Sabaoth, we have to come to Mashiach, Yeshua. We need to understand what the Creator wants from us. And we are living on the last of the days, and we actually live in the last generation. Look at what it says here. 4 verse 9 of Hebrews. So there remains a Shabbat keeping for the people of Ayil Almighty. That Shabbat, and let me pause here for a moment. If you guys remember that the 7 days of Sukkot, the first day is considered Shabbat, but the last one is not a Shabbat. That Shabbat, have you ever wondered why it's not a Shabbat, but it's just the last day? Why? Because it remains until Mashiach returns in that millennium, that 7,000 years millennium. That's the Shabbat is remaining. That's the one you see here that Shaul is referring to. So there remain a Shabbat keeping for the people of Ayil. Now let's close with this. 1 Corinthians 15:22. This is going to happen when Mashiach returns on the 7th millennium. For as Adam all died, so also in Mashiach all will be made alive. But each on his own order. Mashiach, the first fruits. Afterwards, those of Mashiach is coming. So in other words, there will be an event when Mashiach returns. And this is going to happen when he brings about the first fruits, okay, the first or the best of the best, in other words, which is whoever wants to follow Torah until the very, very end when he returns. Verse 24, and then is the end, when he delivers the kingdom to Yahweh, even Father, when he made to cease all rule and no authority and power. That will be the end. And that will be the end on the Olam Haba, when he 1,000 years ceased. When he's finished, then the 8th day will come. Look at what it says here, verse 25. For it is right for him to reign until he puts his enemies under his feet. What day is that, brothers and sisters? The 7,000 millennium. When he comes, he's going to put all his enemies under his feet. And it's written that he's going to do so. Verse 28, but all these things are subject to him. Okay, then the Son also himself will be subject to the one. Who's the one? Our Father Yahweh, who will be subject to all things to him. Yahweh may be all things in all. Now, everybody knows who does the Siddur, who does the Shabbat service. We know that we always said, Yahweh Ushmo Echad, which means it says in that day, Yahweh will be one and one will be his name. Where do you think it's written, brothers and sisters? Shaul knew about this. That's why he wrote that letter. Where did he get it from? From here, Zechariah 14 verse 9. And Yahweh shall be king all over the earth. In that day Yahweh shall be one, Echad, and his name will be one, Echad. Brothers and sisters, in this Shabbat that we are keeping, this new cycle of parashuts, or parashat, or Torah portions, I'm very happy to say that the Creator is making all these things to come about. But it is up to us to do something right for our Father. It is very important for us to understand that without him, we cannot do the things that we ought to do. It is written, it is foreshadowed in the very beginning of creation that our Father has said all these things from the very beginning until now. It is written in the very, very beginning of Bereshyt, or Genesis. It's already set forth that all these things are going to happen. All we got to do is follow the Mashiach's footsteps, follow Tzedakah, follow the Emunah. Tzedakah means righteousness. Emunah means firmness or steadfast. Okay? To be firm where I believe. My name is Rapha'Yah. Until next time, next Shabbat, we're going to have the Parashat Noach. And if you haven't checked our channel, please do so. There are many productions coming to about. And there's so many productions. If you want to support our channel, the descriptions is down below. If you want to bring about, be part of the Telegram group of Torah, please, the link is down below. And if you have any questions, please write to me. There's always a way how you can contact me. My name is Moreh Rapha'Yah. Shalom, shalom, and we'll see you again.